Sup, you chuckle fucks? It's your boy Dark Raku here with What If Issei Was the Frost Monarch Part 2. Now, before I go on, I know it was only Part 1 about like 2, 4, 5 hours probably the fuck ago. The reason why I did it so short is because I had to go somewhere. I had to go get a job. Yes, I kind of forgot about doing it in the morning because, yeah. But not the point. I already went to like 2 different places. I had to, well, do a, what's it called? Mostly that paper. Fuck, what is it called? I'm forgetting. Fuck, maybe I'll check. I'll remember later. Not the point. What's it called? Let me begin into this what if. Let me shut the fuck up and let me begin. Okay, sorry. I actually wanted to continue on with this, but yeah. But let's begin into where I last left it off. Also, let me turn off my freezer. I mean, the cooler, freezer, AC. Fuck it. Whatever it's called. Okay. Not the point. But we go into this what if. Now we go into mostly Issei. Issei's aura has just changed. He has a much more colder aura. A colder personality also. Very cold. And he has a bone-chilling voice. Yes, his voice is quite deliberate, deep, but smooth at the same time. Like icy smooth. Like very, like if you put something in the freezer and then kind of like let it there for a freeze and it just comes out very smooth. It feels like that. Does it work well? He kind of talks after mostly letting go of the freezing aura of stopping time. Actually, his aura just freezes time, actually. That's what it kind of does. But his aura is much more powerful. Being next to it literally will make you have permafrost if you get too close to him. Like if you hug him or whatever. Does it work well? He doesn't have. He kind of has that, like similar to like Gojo's ability, like Gojo's Infinity. It's kind of similar to that, but not really. Does it work well? He says mostly his hair is entirely white, very smoothie, not smoothie, mostly snowy white, and does it work well? His eyes are crystallized blue. His skin is kind of a bluish color, like a darkish kind of bluish color. And does it work well? He has a small little grin on his face. Does it work well? Everyone was confused. Now, the armor that he was wearing disappeared, except for the gauntlet. It was still there, but instead of being a red gauntlet, it was a kind of like bluish but reddish kind of gauntlet mixed together. But it was kind of a purplish gauntlet. But it was kind of icy. Instead of being like a metal gauntlet, it was actually icy kind of color. Like instead of being like metal, it's actually like made out of ice for a second. The jewel was, well, the gem was still there, but it was actually a very turquoise color. Does it work well? Mostly Drake's skill, we go into Drake's mind, and his skills and flames change. You see here, he's no longer the Crimson Red Dragon Emperor. He's actually the, what's it called, Frosted Ice Dragon Emperor now. And also his flames are no longer reddish kind of crimson flames. They're still reddish crimson flames, but they have this like bluish tint to it. It's called Chill Flames. It's now changed to Chill Flames, which these flames literally will burn your outside. Well, it kind of doesn't really burn. It looks to be burning, but it will actually freeze you from the inside. There's also another type, the element that he uses, and it's called freezing sizzle, which it literally cooks you from the inside when it freezes you, but not the point. Now, does it work well? He kind of glances. Well, we go into Issei. Issei is now completely different. Does it work well? The White Dragon Empress is right now looking at Issei with a very content look, but at the same time confused. Does it work well? Albion is kind of telling what's it called, Valerie, about mostly Drake's aura has actually changed. It's no longer red. It's no longer the red domination dragon, but instead the frosted, mostly the frosted white blue, the frosted, well, light blue crystallized dragon. That's what it's kind of called, probably. Mostly Albion doesn't really know what it is. Does it work well? We go into Issei, looking at mostly Valerie with a little kind of grin on his face. Now, does it work well? He doesn't seem to really care about Valerie too much, but does it work well? He kind of just looks behind him and sees mostly, well, the devils. Does it work well? He still notices the devil still has a connection to him. There's evil pieces within his body. Does it work well? What he does is shove his hand into his chest. Right now, making the devils widen their eyes in an instant. Rias was right now confused, but scared. This Issei is no longer Issei. Does it work well? Even the 3 faction leaders realize that this is no longer Issei. this being is not Issei, but someone else. This is where he shoved out the pieces from his body. They were all frozen instantly, and his chest had a huge mostly a huge hole, but then it just regenerated to going back to normal. This is where, well, mostly this person chuckles and says, well, what a quite interesting style. Well, interesting, well, mostly place this is. So this is the human world. I only seen glimpses and memories of mostly what Issei has done. But if I can remember right, this place is called Kuo. Interesting, he says. A very smooth kind of tone of voice. This is where, well, he seems not to care. This is where, well, I shouldn't care too much. I only came here to free Issei from his chains, double chains, so he can become back into, well, not back, so I can fully turn him into an ice elf. An ice elf so he can become the new frosted monarch. Well, if that's all I just came here to do, I should be going then. This is where, well, he said out loud, which everyone was confused. This is where, well, Ria said, Issei, you can't go. What about fighting the white one? This is where, well, she kind of demanded at Issei, and before she can even say something, literally an ice dagger flies past her, cutting her cheek in an instant, and right now stabbing into the wall. This is where, well, she wiped her eyes. Of course, this is where her wound was actually bleeding. This is where she was bleeding from the cheek. She wiped her eyes, and this is where, well, mostly Sursex and none of the other kind of high-ranking kind of beings were there could even react with that speed. This is where, well, mostly Issei chuckles and says, you think I listen to you? You're nothing but a pathetic king. Please, like how you could even do anything to me. Oh, what are you gonna do, whip me? Because I'm being a bad servant, a bad slave? I don't care. You see here, my name isn't Issei. My name is, he says in a different language, which none of them can actually understand. Even though devils, fallen angels, and angels has to understand all languages, mostly any language for humans, or any normal language for other beings, this language is ancient as hell. You can barely understand entirely. This is where, well, oh, you didn't hear me? My name is, yeah, you get the point. Yeah. This is where, well, they don't understand. My name is, yeah. This is where, well, none of them can still understand. This is where, well, mostly the ice monarch, mostly the frost monarch, is kind of having fun because he knows that none of these people knows what he's saying entirely. This is where he's also going to have to teach Issei about the language entirely. He has to teach Issei a bit, and that's why he can understand him and talk to him, because mostly Issei is actually a part of the frost monarch kind of species. He's actually a descendant of most of the frost monarch. He might look human, but he actually has awoken a bit of his powers, mostly of his, well, bloodline. Because you see here, he's not a full human. He's actually a half percentage of mostly some bloodline that's actually locked within him. But he managed to unlock it when he was a child, somewhat, being able to control ice and snow. It wasn't fully the frost monarch powers of mostly kind of going into his body. He was only chosen recently, but yeah, or he was chosen when he was a child. But not the point. Listen, well, mostly Issei is none other than an ice elf. An ancient ice elf kind of race. There's dark and light elves. Yes, there's those type of elves. But an ice elf tribe is quite an ancient type of race that was actually there before even gods were actually existing too much. Because mostly these ice elves were connected to that of the frost monarch, the leader, the true leader of mostly the, well, ice elves. This is where he was powerful enough to take down any god that dares, well, during his people. But yeah, but that's not the point here or there. This is where, well, there were also excellent hunters, excellent leaders. Mostly some of them were super good at leading others. Some of them were good at just having lots of advancement. They were more advanced than normal humans. They were just entirely advanced. But mostly they were kind of dying out slowly. And some of them had to move to a different, well, dimension. But yeah, but not the point here or there. It's where, well, mostly the frost monarch is still control of Issei's body. And says, well, you don't know my name. It seems you do not understand the language. You see here, if you want a little history lesson, we, the ice elves, were here before any of you bastards. So, Clearly, this planet's ours, not the Bible God, not the fucking Lucifers, not whatever bullcrap you people are. He points at mostly Azel, and this is where, well, mostly he then goes on saying, none of you other species were here before I was. I am considered to be the Frost Monarch, the strongest the strongest, not monarch, the strongest ice elf before any of you bastards. But you know what? I'll kill you later anyway. Besides, I'm not the one who's gonna kill you anyway. It'll be my successor here, who I have taken control of his body for right now. But I'll be leaving. Don't worry, I'll come back with an army to slaughter you all. And you, this is where he points at Valerie. Well, I should say, what to do? Oh yes. Before I go, my host should have a little peep on you, since you are a female, aren't you? This is where, well, Valerie's face was a little bit red and confused. This is where, well, she doesn't want her rival to actually have a peep on her and any of that. And even if this person is taking control of Issei's body, this is where she still refuses to do that. Even if, mostly, her rival is a mostly perverted kind of loser when he was reincarnated and other things, she still refuses to do that. To do any of that. This is where, well, mostly the Frost Monarch says, I wasn't actually trying to, well, question you and request of you to do it. It was mostly a demand. Besides, your armor was already shattered. You didn't even notice I moved out of the spot. But I guess you were too pathetic. This is where, well, mostly the Frost Monarch, where Issei's body was at, just disappears into literally crystal kind of dust. This is where, well, mostly Valerie was confused, but this is where her armor shatters in an instant, fell down to the ground. This is where her clothes is all just mostly torn, or not really torn, but mostly not really on her body. This is where, well, mostly behind her she noticed the Frost Monarch. And this is where, well, his face is a little pinkish color because it's actually Issei taking control of his body again. And this is where, well, he looked away because instantly. This is where, well, she was confused, but this is where, well, Issei was holding the clothes of Valerie, and this is where, well, he kind of just put them on her head and says, sorry about that. This is Issei's voice, and this is where, well, it then changes back to the Frost Monarch saying, you're quite cute for my host, you see here. My vessel here is quite telling you you're cute, but of course he won't say it out loud because he's quite shamed a little bit. But not the point. I don't really care about what you look like or any of that. Well, I should be going then. This is where he makes a gate appear right in front of him, a bluish gate that's actually having a bone-chilling kind of aura around it. And this is where he walks through it without a care in the world. This is where, well, mostly Valerie was confused, but she felt mostly the ground was actually turning to permafrost. This is where, well, she managed to jump away and actually managed to use magic to kind of put on her clothes back again. This is where, well, the gate was about to disappear until someone appears. This is where it seems to be similar to the same kind of bluish skin and whitish kind of hair, but this time it's spiky. Having kind of bluish eyes, kind of like bluish white eyes. Well, eyes a little bit, and this is where, well, he kind of has a small little smirk grin on his face. Well, not whitish bluish eyes glowing, it's mostly a blue. He does have pupilish eyes, and they're kind of bluish. And this is where, well, he also kind of has longish hair, not spiky hair, it's mostly longish hair. This is where, well, he kind of grins and saying, so, this is the human world. He said it in his own language, but this is where, well, similar to the same language as mostly when Issei was talking. This is where, well, he then looks at Valerie and walks past her without a care in the world. This is where he pulls out 2 daggers and looks at mostly all the mouths. Now, he had mostly a request from mostly the Lord to go do something before he could actually go back into the gate. Now, the gate is kind of closed for anyone who's trying to enter except for the Ice Elf. But this is where the Ice Elf is promised for glory and what he was supposedly need to do. This is where, well, the Ice Elf is right now walking straight towards like the 2 mouths, the, what's it called, Azo and also, well, mostly Michael and even Irina. Now, Irina was so pissed she even had her holy sword right now kind of mostly giving Rias a scar. Now, of course, there were mostly Lucifer, where Sergex is trying to calm down Irina, when Michael is trying to do that, and this is where Sergex is trying to, mostly heal, well, mostly Rias. This is where he is confused in what happened. Now, Sona has actually never seen Issei look different. Now, he was always considered a pervert. Well, kinda. She knows that he wasn't a pervert entirely. And that was just because of his friends. He was actually a quiet, innocent boy. Now, seeing him being different, and him actually having two souls instead of one, himself and another person. This person says that he's a Frostmark leader. Now, of course, she never heard of the Ice Elves, which she only heard of them on like ancient stories about like dark and light elves being different, kind of similar descendants to that of the Ice Elves, but not much, because there was different types of elves. But yeah, this is where, well, she was kind of imagining, never expecting to actually meet an ancient type of race, and being that the Ice Elves. Until she noticed one Ice Elf walking towards him. He had kind of longish hair, his eyes were bluish color, and ferocious kind of icy aura around him. This is where, well, Sir Zex and the others kind of noticed it, and this is where they were confused. Another Ice Elf, but this time it was an Issei, but instead of a different person. This is where the person said his language until we noticed that none of them can actually understand him. This is where, well, he then coughed into his hand and then started speaking into a human language. This is where, well, they were confused, actually now understanding him. This is where he says, well, hello there. My lord has actually told me on a small request, or mostly a little, yeah, you can say it's a small little request for me to finish and do. You see here, since the girls has betrayed the trust of the lord, then you shall all pay. This is where, well, Surgex gets ready by actually using Destruction Magic. He then launches at the Ice Elf, but this is where the Ice Elf disappears. His speed was much more faster than Surgex can actually react. This is where, well, before he can even, like, decide to attack the Ice Elf, because the Ice Elf appeared right in front of him, this is where Surgex was about to use Destruction around his body to cover it up. But this is where, well, he does it, but it wasn't even the Ice Elf wasn't even aiming for him entirely. It was aiming for the girls. Rias Gremory, Akano Ahinjima, was it called? Kiba, of course, mostly he found out also Kiba was probably with the whole bullcrap. Koneko, Ozzy Argento, and, well, he didn't tell the Ice Elf to attack Gasper, just those kind of people. This is where, well, the reason why he targeted Ozzy Argento is because mostly Ozzy Argento also had a different aura to her. Mostly like someone slept with her also. So mostly, yeah, that's the thing. Now, of course, Koneko was involved with the whole bullshit as murder, so yeah. But this is where, well, before they can even react, mostly X's appear right near their faces. Mostly an X mark appears on, what's it called, the forehead of Rias, and even Akano, and also, what's it called, Koneko, Ozia, and even, what's it called, yeah. Koneko, Akano, Rias. Now, what's it called, Ozia has a huge kind of just scar on her cheek. Just instantly, like a scar. Pretty much, those X's kind of marks that they are no longer kind of lovers towards Issei, because Issei doesn't see them at all as lovers. So, of course, that's the thing. Now, of course, a scar appears on mostly Ozzy because, well, he doesn't fully trust her at all. Now, he doesn't care, and that mark just shows that he really doesn't care. Now, he then goes up to Kiba, and before Kiba can even react, 2 slash marks appear on his chest. This is where he bleeds out and falls down to the ground. Now, Zenobia isn't Mark or neither Irina, because mostly both of them are basically just nothing to do with this. This is where, well, everyone else was just like confused. Now, of course, the Ice Elf looks at Sona, but doesn't seem to care about Sona, because mostly Issei is smart enough to believe that Sona was probably not told about what's it called, the whole what the Gremory would have done. Because mostly what's it called, not Zenobia, mostly Sona seems to be the type to actually talk to the people to turn them into devils, unlike Rias' little actions. Which, that's the thing. So, mostly the Ice Elf never attacked Sona. And of course, Starfall was protecting her. Now, of course, she didn't know how strong mostly this Ice Elf was, but it seemed to be quite powerful to be able to speed blitz almost all of them. But the Ice Elf did kind of glance at both Sona and Starfall, but then seems not to care. This is where he disappears by jumping up in the air and then falling back to the ground. This is where, well, the Ice Elf says, well, it seems that I already marked the people that are, mostly dead. Well, mostly, yeah, no longer, mostly dead towards my master. You people that were marked, you people were the ones who kind of tried to kill him. Kill him and try to make him your slave. And decide to use him for your own benefits, beneficials, whatever bullcrap. But whatever with that, I should be going. I also have a mission to kill, well, the master's parents, the people who dare neglected him. This is where, well, when Ozzy heard it and she said, no, Issei would never. Issei? Why do you keep calling him Issei? His name is Ujimanaya. This is where, well, mostly it's a different language, and I will mention what language it would be. Not really, it's mostly just some random language I thought of, whatever. This is where, well, mostly they can't understand the language, but this is where, well, he said it's time for me to leave. I will be not the one killing them, but they will surely be dead for their insolent actions, for ignoring and deciding not to be a proper family and actually teaching the young master and how to hunt, especially the father who is actually a descendant of our kind, and really ignore the side of the ice elf and shall be taking his blood away, so he no longer is a part of our tribe. But when we do that, we shall also kill him and purge the woman also, since they did not teach the young master in how to hunt properly, or kill, or murder. That's why he seems to be in such a unstable kind of mess and not killing you people. But for that, I should be leaving. This is where, well, mostly the Ice Elf was about to disappear until Surzik was about to send a destruction magic at what's it called, the Ice Elf. But the Ice Elf managed to dodge, disappear again, and reappear right in front of Surzik, sending a mostly dagger, because he does have daggers, and this is where he cuts Surzik's eye. This is where Surzik wanted his eyes and kind of grabbed his eyes in an instant because he has actually a scar now. This is where, well, everyone else wanted their eyes. This is where, well, before the Ice Elf can actually leave, he kicked the hell out of Surzik's in the ribcage, but this is where he still uses the dagger to stab it into his chest in an instant, stabbing one of his organs. This is where the Ice Elf grins and says, "You're quite pathetic." This is where, well, mostly Surzex tried to send a destruction ball at what's it called, the Ice Elf, which the Ice Elf managed to use this ancient freezing magic to actually freeze the destruction ball from actually hitting him, like stopping it mid, and what's it called, just in front of him instantly, like if he was stopping time. But it was like a small little magic kind of, not circle, but a ball around the destruction magic. This is where, well, he then appears right in front of Surzik and punching him right in the face. This is where launching him straight towards a red-haired girl. The red-haired girl was all kind of bleeding from her face, and this is where now her older brother smashes into her. This is where, well, we'll see the Ice Elf says, "Quite pathetic indeed. Kick. Well, I should be going." This is where, well, he walks away and going back to the kind of gate and disappearing by jumping into the gate and disappearing. But yeah, now everyone is just winding their eyes. They have just seen the power of an actual Ice Elf. And Issei, if Issei was actually quite trained and proficient in basically the way of an Ice Elf, he would have been quite a deadly force. And he would not care about Rias the man, and mostly before he was actually killed. He would not actually care about the whole reincarnation system, because he would have been able to just rip them out of himself, by himself, and not the help of the Frost Monarch. But that's not the point here or there. Now, Valerie says, quite interesting. Well, that should be going then. This is where she activates her wings and disappears, but yeah. This is where, well, basically the alliance is like an original kind of alliance there actually are all together, but they do not have the Red Dragon, because the Red Dragon has left and became an actual own kind of like faction entirely, and the Chaos Brigade have the White Dragon. But yeah, now this is where, well, someone in, mostly there was a couple of people watching Valerie of battle, and this is where a girl with magenta eyes and blackish hair was actually watching this. Now of course she was kind of scared and freaked out a little bit, and how Issei was basically different. His aura was quite cold and interesting. It was similar to the one time that she actually kind of killed him. Yes, if you actually haven't found out, this is none other than Rainer. And she's actually quite scared. Would Issei go after her? No, she's already dead. That's what she thinks. But does Issei know? Well, Issei doesn't know, but Issei will find out later, maybe. But who cares? We go into Issei. Kind of in a very winter-like kind of dimension. Now, he's right now in a hut, and of course, he's kind of heating up. But this is where, well, he is kind of too much in a nightmare, and this is where, well, the Frost Monarch is just trying to get him back to regular kind of health as an ice elf, to kind of, well, getting ready to kind of start training and becoming the successor of the Frost Monarch, the new Frost Monarch user. This is where, well, we go into, well, Issei's kind of, well, mostly a time skip after, well, him actually waking up and becoming healthy again. This is where, well, Issei's skin is now palish, well, not palish blue, it's like a darkish blue color. This is where, well, he also has, what's it called, his pupils' eyes are crystallized blue, but yeah. This is where, he also has kind of whitish hair that actually became longer over time in this dimension, but yeah. And has actually kind of developed kind of, well, his strength, his power. He developed a lot of things in this place. He developed also leadership with the other ice elves that are actually living here. And there's actually a lot of ice elves in this place. This is where, well, they learn how to hunt, kill, murder, and other things. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that they are learning with their kind of leader, because their leader also teaches them human language, so they can actually blend in with the humans, because he found out that the ice elves are quite advanced. They are advanced in assassination. They are advanced in warriorship. They are advanced in mostly like technology. They are advanced in like medical stuff. They are advanced in entirely a lot of things. Even what's called biology and also like other stuff. But yeah. But they are advanced in like creating like machinery and other things. But this is where Issei is actually kind of trying to teach him about machinery and other stuff. So they will be advanced in that category. This is where, well, Issei is kind of just teaching them about a lot of things to kind of, well, get them ready to ever fight against the kind of like four mouths, and of course like the what's it called, the Ceres? I don't remember what it's called. The ones that are in heaven, the Arctic Angel things. I think that's what they call them, and also the, well, Gogorio. Now he's also preparing them just to fight against what's it called, the Chaos Brigade. He doesn't know what the Chaos Brigade actually want, but doesn't really care neither. So yeah. So with that happening, we go into mostly Issei kind of just training them all, and of course he himself is actually learning also. He refused to be a normal weakling human. He will become just like the same strength as an ice elf. Now he is 75% ice elf while like 25% dragon. So yeah. Now he can always summon D-Drake out into being an ice dragon, a very tall ice dragon, made out of mostly Issei's mana. But yeah. Now Issei is kind of still the same name Issei, but of course there's another language for it, but not the point. But of course there's also another name that he is called by, but I might mention it later. Now, not the point here or there. Now, I should mention one thing before I go on. The Frost Monarch never's actual name was actually revealed, so I had to call him something else. So that's why it's kind of, unlike the other monarchs, like the Dragon Monarch has an actual name, well, instead of just being called Dragon Monarch, or like the, what's it called, Shadow Monarch, or like the White Flame Monarch. Like some of the other monarchs weren't actually said about their actual names, but yeah. Now, this is where, well, Issei is kind of just getting out of, well, mostly he gets out of what's it called, that dimension, but he's not alone. He's actually having two people mostly accompanying him. Mostly he actually appears in, what's it called, the Chaos Brigade, kind of like somewhere in the Chaos Brigade. Not really in the Chaos Brigade. He actually has been gone actually from the human for like about 2 years, or not 2 years, mostly like, well, 1 year. That's just because, well, it might not look like it, but he's actually quite older. He's actually now 18. Well, not 18. It could consider a century-year old, because in that dimension it's different move time and space, but whatever. But this is where, well, mostly Issei says, so where am I? So I'll be a 1 year, well, 18 in this dimension, so it's 1 year considered to be that. Where am I? Why is there a mansion, a white mansion here? This is where, well, one of his ice elf generals, because there's two generals, and this is where they're saying, sir, should we be careful? Yeah, This is where he felt this mostly energy. It seems familiar. It's been a while to sense it. But this is where he then says, both of you, get on guard. They both nodded. This is where, well, Issei walks right towards, like, the mansion. This is where, well, he's about to knock at it, which he does. And this is where, well, the door opens. And what kind of, well, opens it is this kind of, like, black hair kind of beauty with mostly a nice kind of, like, bust or whatever. This is where she's wearing kind of, like, this black kind of, like, not maid outfit. It's mostly like a dress. And this is where, well, she kind of has her eyes kind of closed, but she opens them. And it does have a little bit of power of infinity between them. This is where, well, she seems to be none other than Orpheus, the Infinity Dragon. And this is where, well, she looks at, well, this person. And this is where, well, she says, I see. So you must be the Frost Monarch's successor. Being, well, Issei, aren't you? Or the used to, well, not used to. She doesn't know about the entire Frost Monarch's identity. And this is where, well, she says, oh, so you must be what Issei Haidu, also known as, well, the Red Dragon, or used to be Red Dragon. Mostly that's what Valerie told me about you. Now, how old are you entirely? You're 18, but you don't look 18. You probably have a century on yourself, because your skin and color and everything changed. They said that you were an ice elf, and you are also that of the descendant of the Frost Monarch. If I can remember right, the Frost Monarch has more of an ancient timeline than I do, and he's much more older than I am. Issei said, and who the hell are you? Well, mostly Issei does already know, and this is where Orpheus is. The name's Orpheus, the Infinity Dragon. This is where, well, Issei said, so if you know already who I am, how should I say, where am I exactly? This is where, well, Orpheus kind of switched off, seeing Issei, seeing to just ignore her, whatever title, whatever bullcrap. This is where, well, Issei can actually feel the energy of the Infinity Dragon. It's actually way weaker than the Frost Monarch itself. This is where, well, he also has met the other monarchs, like the Plague Monarch, the Beast Monarch, the Dragon Monarch, and of course, the Dragon Monarch's power against, like, the Infinity Monarch is out of question, because the Dragon Monarch power is literally just up there, just completely up there. This is where, well, he doesn't care. He just said, so where am I exactly? This is where he said in a very dead tone voice. This is where, well, mostly the Infinity Monarch, or not Infinity Monarch, no. The Dragon, mostly Orpheus, kind of just narrow her eyes and says, you're in the Chaos Brigade territory, and if you do not get out of here, I will kill you. Issei chuckles and says, bring it on if you can. Issei's aura exploded into a bluish, freezing aura color that right now seems to be freezing the ground. His two generals get on guard in an instant. This is where, well, Orpheus right now exploded her aura, but of course, even with her infinity aura, it seems to be freezing in an instant thanks to Issei's power. This is where, well, people rush through the door to check on what is happening. They see Orpheus losing. Her aura is actually being frozen over. Or mostly just not frozen over, mostly freezing over thanks to the power of the Frost Monarch. This is where, well, mostly one person says divide. This is where, well, Issei heard about this, but this is where, well, Issei didn't really care about his energy being divided because it would not be divided. His aura is much more, like, bigger than anything entirely. Issei says, are you done with your dividing? Because it's quite pathetic. I can always boost up my energy just for you to take years in, well, trying to divide my aura. This is where, well, the person growls, and it's none other than a girl with white hair and being really beautiful. No, last time then Issei saw her. Issei kind of looked away because she was quite beautiful, and of course she wasn't actually wearing that much clothes. She was actually kind of mostly half nuded. This is where, well, mostly, well, Valerie looked confused at why the Frost Monarch, also known as Issei, is looking away. This is where his two generals, Issei's two generals, are just like looking away also. They're going, but yeah, this is where, well, Orpheus says, why aren't you wearing clothes? This is where, well, she kind of questioned at Valerie. Valerie says, what are you, This is where, well, the other people who was actually seeing this is where, well, someone in the background says, dang, Valerie, you looking mad. This is where, before he can even say anything, he gets smacked to the ground so far, like, just hit to the ground so hard that he was knocked the fuck out. It was none other than Biku, and of course, someone actually just punched the shit of him. Another female. This is where, well, mostly Valerie's face becomes all red, and this is where, well, she says, you perverted bastard again. This is where Issei says, I was not even the one to actually. This is where, well, before Issei can even say anything, he was actually confused when basically Valerie's lips actually smashes into his own lips. This is where, well, even though her hands were getting frozen a little bit thanks to the aura of Issei, she didn't give a damn. This is where Issei was like, this is where, well, mostly Issei couldn't really do anything but to actually kiss forward. And this is where, well, mostly the dragon side him say, woo, good job, Issei. Dominate that, what's it called? White hair girl. I don't know what to tell you, but just go ahead, kid. This is where, well, he's just telling mostly Issei, and this is where Issei managed to let go of her lips. And this is where, well, her hands were frozen a little bit. This is where Issei just removes the permanent frost from her hands by using a bit of magic. And this is where, well, Issei says, don't know why you decided to do that. You were hurting yourself, idiot. This is where, well, mostly Valerie's face was a little bit red. And of course, her face was kind of permanent frost, but this is where she's just turning red more. And of course, the melted ice is just melted entirely. But yeah. This is where, well, she says, I couldn't resist. This is where, well, Issei just sighs and says, you know you're quite dumb for doing that, right? This is where Valerie says, screw you, bastard. This is where, well, he says, whatever. Well, can you actually put clothes? This is quite awkward. This is where Valerie didn't really care about putting on clothes. And this is where she then decides to oppose to see if Issei will actually have a blood nose. To see if he's still perverted. Which Issei is kind of perverted, but not much. He has the kind of cold attitude similar to that of the Ice Monarch. But yeah. But other than that, I'm thinking of leaving it off here for part 2. You know what? I might do a redo on this. Or maybe not. I might continue it on. But other than that, bye. See you and yeah, bye. So yeah.